Hello and welcome to another trading week right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Here's what's coming up in the next 55 minutes. Egypt's annual headline inflation rises to 26.3%, but monthly data declines 1.5% in October. The Zimbabwean government reaffirms its commitment to advancing renewable energy with a target of 2,100 megawatts renewable energy by 2030. Plus, Uganda electricity exports grow by 57%. And it's great to have you join us. I'm Lade Williams. Let's get a quick check now on commodity markets. See, the gold prices are falling for a second straight session today, while investors are preparing for U.S. economic data that's coming out this week. Spot gold down about 0.5%, $2,669 per ounce, even though, gold has had a monster run, this season. So profit taking should be normal, at this point. U.S. gold futures 0.7% down, $2,675 per ounce. So it's all about economic data. All the uncertainty around elections, that's gone now. So I guess no more appeal for the yellow bullion now. So let's look at other metals in the market. We see the likes of palladium, that's on the flip side, up by 0.5%. Platinum, 0.3% up. Spot silver following what we're seeing with gold there, $31.17, down 0.4%. All right, to the oil market now. Oil prices have extended declines today as a threat of a supply disruption from a U.S. storm eased after China's stimulus plan disappointed investors seeking fuel demand growth in the world's number 2 oil consumer. We see Brent still down today, some $3.56 a barrel. But we see the spread between the U.S. grade WTI crude and Brent is closing up now, just about $3. About $3 spreading both prices, 0.4% for Brent, down $70. That's holding on to that psychological level for WTI. We'll see if that holds this week. But we've tested the higher 60s for a while now in this market, but has been able to come back above the $70 level. All right, now, so let's see. We see despite several interventions at the foreign exchange market by the Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves have crossed, a big move there, the $40 billion level for the first time in almost 3 years. According to latest data from CBN, the country's external buffer climbed by $270 million to hit $40.4 billion as of November the 6th. Analysts attribute a significant feat to several reforms announced this year by the CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso, which so far has attracted foreign portfolio investment, while crude oil sales added to the accretion in the country's dollar reserves. However, the Naira depreciated within the period of this milestone as it dropped by 0.7% week on week to 1,678 Naira. So analysts are still trying to understand the relationship between foreign reserves and the strength of the Naira. But my guest earlier today said we should wait for higher levels for the foreign reserves to actually see a bigger defense, for the Naira. We'll definitely keep watching that. So the Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has commended the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry for the successful outcome of the 2024 Lagos International Trade Fair. Governor Sanwo-Olu, who attended the closing ceremony held at Tafawa Balewa Square, says the state government will continue to partner with LCCI to grow the private sector and also improve the economy of the state. Take a listen.
It's the closing ceremony of the 2024 Lagos International Trade Fair. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu joins industry players at the Tafawa Balewa Square on Nikon, Lagos for the annual event organized by the Lagos State Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The State Commissioner for Commerce, Cooperatives, Trade and Investment says Lagos State, the economic powerhouse of Nigeria, accounts for a significant portion of the nation's gross domestic products, and the government will continue to equip MSMEs with the resources they need to innovate and scale their operations.
We gather to honor not only the resilient and innovative spirit of our local and international business communities as led by the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry LCCI, but to underscore the commitment of the Lagos State Government to catalyze business growth, foster collaboration, and drive socio-economic prosperity.
The president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce commended Governor Sanwo-Olu for creating an ambience that allows smooth operations of the year 2024 trade fair.
The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry continues to stand solidly behind Lagos State in its quest to actualize all the initiatives built around the theme's agenda and the Lagos State Development Plan 2052. This is a plan that's going to transform Lagos.
Governor Sanwo-Olu believes the theme of the event, connecting businesses, creating value, aligns with the Lagos State's vision to foster partnerships, drive innovation, and build an environment where businesses of all sizes can thrive.
Under the AFCTA, we've seen that Lagos has a working technical, group to prepare our businesses to leverage, like I said, trade benefits within Africa. Africa needs to trade among themselves. We need to deepen that relationship. Let us open our borders. Let us be able to interrelate because we're closer to one another, right? And whatever it is, we'll now trade with other parts of the world.
The Lagos State government affirms that micro, small, and medium enterprises are the backbone of any vibrant economy, and Lagos is no exception, as it is working assiduously through different agencies to support tech startups and other skills to enable MSMEs to thrive in both local and the global markets.
And it's all about that movement to renewable energy and away from fossil fuels. We've all been, looking at how major economies can, make that shift and how we could get a just move for Africa. And all will be a major conversation as the world looks to cleaner energy. The economy of Azerbaijan is hosting COP29, country that relies almost entirely on the fossil fuels that are the main driver of global warming. But we have our environment correspondent, Ayola Kasim. She's on ground right there in Baku, and she will definitely be bringing us blow by blow of updates of what's playing out right there, conversations about investment into renewable energy development, and definitely how to have a just transition, for a continent, as Africa. We've had reports that investments in renewable energy have, even though we've seen an improvement, according to IRENA, we've seen improvements when it comes to investment in renewable energy globally, but at the same time, they say a lot needs to be spent to actually make that happen. Let's bring in Ayola Kasim now, our environment correspondent. She's right there on ground in Baku. Great to have you. So Ayola, please tell me, what's the mood like in Azerbaijan?
The opening ceremony just happened this morning, and of course we're expecting that COP29, that's what they've been told, that this is all about. That the money that's been expected by developing countries. Now there's a new finance goal called the new collective quantifier goal. And then the African continent, through the African group of negotiators, are expecting $1.3 trillion over the next 5 years to expire by 2030, hoping that this will help us to cope with the impact of climate change. Talk about climate adaptation and climate mitigation. Those are the things that we're expecting to happen. Earlier today, we were told that most likely that there will be something to expect from the president, the COP presidency. That didn't happen in terms of a new announcement on something called Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. That means that, there's carbon credit. That means countries with protected forests can earn something from that. We had something like that with the Cross River State government earlier, that Red Cross, but now it's going to be broader. like country can trade with one another in this instance. So those are the things that we've been sharing in the morning, but just opening a plenary. And in some moment from now, we're going to have another plenary to adopt the agenda for this COP.
There's so much to unpack there, and we'll be getting more updates from you, as we get them right there. That's our very own Ayola Kasim out there in Baku, Azerbaijan for COP29. Thank you so much for giving us those details. We'll definitely come to you again within the week. So definitely right here, it's all about prices. We keep tracking all the price movements right here for major commodities. And as most of us, we pray for our daily bread. And if you're looking at, bread and physical, we see the prices going up a lot. So I hope that doesn't mean we have to pray more. But today we're going to be talking about bread prices and what to expect for the industry, that's the baking industry. And joining me for this conversation, we have Mr. Thomas Babalola, is the Public Industrial Relations Officer at Premium Bread Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria. We also have Madam Adijat Olani Olokwadesh, is Financial Secretary, Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria. They're both joining me right here in the studio. It's great to have you both.
Good to have you. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. So, I've been tracking bread prices, for a while now. And, from data I received from Financial Derivatives Company, if you can put that up for us, I will see on the streets, that's in the streets of Lagos, I think a loaf of bread is about 1,600 naira at this point, depending on what street you're buying from. I want to believe then maybe supermarket price, maybe around 1,200. Then if you're looking at inputs for baking, we've seen the prices of wheat, we've seen the prices of sugar, and that's it right there, wheat. The year low, 4,800 naira for wheat. Current prices around about 11,500 naira for about 50 kilogram bag. Sugar, 85,000 naira. That's most of bakery inputs. That's this data coming from Financial Derivatives Company. No. Right. From a year low of about 31,000. So, definitely, I know these prices move.
This is incorrect.
Constantly. But what are you seeing for prices, of wheat and sugar?
This is incorrect for wheat.
For wheat, that's not
Are you talking about raw wheat or flour?
We're talking about flour.
Flour. Okay, this is incorrect. No. Wheat had not been 4,000 in the past.
No, that's year low. That's not the current price.
It has not been 4,000 in the past 5-6 years.
Oh, okay.
It's never, even in the past 10 years, it's never been 4,000. So maybe that's why I say, is it raw wheat or flour?
Right.
Flour now is averaging 70,000.
7,000?
Yes.
Okay, that's for how many kilograms?
For 50 kg.
50 kg?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, depending on where you're buying.
Where you're buying. And I think we started the year for about 40,000.
Right.
So it's averaging about 64, 70.
What about sugar?
67. Sugar is average of about 80,000 now.
80,000?
80,000, okay. 80,000, 82.
Then eggs, I know we're right with eggs.
Eggs is...
Right. For a crate?
A crate of eggs is about 6,000 naira now.
6,000 naira.
Yes.
So many price shocks, at this point. How's your industry navigating all of this? Let me start with you.
Okay. Number one, we are Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria. And we call ourselves the elite bread makers, which is because of this outrageous price increase. That's why we're planning to have, we have a P-Band Day out sometimes next week, November 21st. And the theme is we are looking at innovations in bread making with the use of local and cheap alternatives, which is the crux of what we're discussing here today. Basically, wheat is about 80% of what we use. Wheat, sugar follows, and fat. And the increase we've had since the beginning of the year is unprecedented. So when we have a P-Band Day out, it's something that we started last year. It's like a get-together seminar. We invite industry heads to come and talk about how we can improve the bread making industry. So this year, our theme particularly is about innovations, what we're going to use, at least invariably, to bring down the prices of bread. So we're having the P-Band out at Academic Hall on the 21st of November. Our guest speaker is the DG of FIRO, and he's going to be talking about innovations in bread making with use of alternative and cheaper materials.
And talking about cheaper alternatives and cheaper inputs, I'll come to you now, Mr. Babalola. Talk to me, what are these innovations or trends you've seen, so far in the industry?
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon, viewers, wherever you're watching us from. Actually, the theme, the content of the theme is driven by the cost of inputs. Realistically, we cannot have all our inputs, we cannot have everything locally. But what we're trying to do, we're trying to look at the low-hanging fruits, the one that we can have locally. For example, the more talk about cassava bread, it's been there forever. So we want to give it a new impetus through FIRO. So that we can have, let's say, 10% of cassava input. And this will, in a way, help to bring out the cost of production, increase our productivity, and on the long run, increase our margin, and again, lower the forex.
Dependence on forex. And definitely, I've heard a lot of talk about that, cassava flour, and there was a taste issue, if I'm correct. Some Nigerians weren't too fond of the taste.
It's not really. People are very, very sensitive to taste. It depends on our taste buds. But it's a mindset. But from the look of things, you can have in soya. We've seen bread baked with some inputs of soya, and you hardly find any difference in it. It depends on preference, but our people have a very strong mindset about what they've been eating for years. So any strong alterations is going to have an effect. And for example, we tried something like that was orange fresh potato. Sometimes we were in FIRO, we did the demonstration. We had bread baked, supervised by FIRO. But in all of this, the idea is just to, first of all, get more local inputs into bread making. And you see, trickle-down effect, our farmers, our processors will have more to work with, more money in their pockets. But basically, that's why we want to do this day out, is to bring all stakeholders across the entire bread value chain, equipment, makers, flour millers, what have you. And we are inviting the public. We want to use this medium to invite the public to come to our day out. It's going to be a fully loaded day.
I'm sure loaded with bread, hopefully, for whoever's looking to attend.
Bread and lots of goodies.
Exactly. But talk to me about advocacy now. I know your group is, strong on trying to, speak to the government, direct them in policies that would help your industry and help the consumer, by driving down prices. How would you describe this government reception, to your recommendations?
Okay. Since the beginning of the year, this administration, they've been trying to bring down the rate of wheat. There was the import duty-free that the government brandished, because I'll say brandished because it hasn't come to play, that if the import duty, they were going to give them, the importers, maybe like 3 months import waiver. Yes, but up till now, it has not come to play, because with the import duty being paid on wheat, plus the 50% surcharge. Exactly. That's what has made wheat, despite the issue of the war they have in Russia now. Russia is the major producer of wheat.
Right.
So if the government could do something about the waiver on the 15% surcharge on wheat and encourage local imports. I know wheat, Northerners cultivate wheat, but there has not been so much effort on it. If the government could intentionally, like maybe have an agric support intentionally for wheat, that would sort of reduce the price we pay for flour now, because there's so much. There's no way we can. 80% of bread is flour. even with the local imports, there's no way we can use more than 10% of cassava. So that means we still need 70%. And the 70% is being imported. We produce less than 5% of our local use now. The government did something on rice and it worked. So the emphasis that we place on rice, if the government could at least, that's the advocacy that our association, that's what we're doing, working on now. If the government could at least put the kind of effort they put on rice that made the local production of rice improve, if they can do that on wheat, I'm sure we're not going to be talking about the increase in bread. And bread is almost as important as rice in Nigeria. There's hardly any household.
We don't pray about daily rice.
Right, exactly.
We pray for daily bread. So I guess that makes
hardly any
really important
where they won't eat bread.
All right.
So we need government assistance on production of wheat locally.
Okay. So, Mr. Babalola, from where you're sitting right now, I want you to, look into 2025. Right. That's coming, soon. What do you see? What do you see, for bread prices if we continue, at this pace and maybe with the innovations, coming up?
Right. Yeah, it's a tough question, but I will answer it. You see, if the necessary things are not done, like my colleague said here, government has to be bullish about it. Government has to, because whether we like it or not, there's going to be disruption in the food value chain, entire supply chain all over the world because of the war going on in Russia and Ukraine, because those are major food belts. The government must be determined to say, okay, now we have to do what we call backward integration. Without that, I'm not sure we're going to have a drop. Because it's in our own interest for the price of our bread to come down. If the price comes down, we sell more, we make more sales, and it's more margin for us. But 2025 is still a long shot. But the government must be proactive and actually listen to our advocacy. Not only with sugar. These are the major drivers, major takers of forex. And once the government can look into that, we have large expanse of land. We can cultivate sugarcane in the north. And like my colleague said, it's only 5% that we produce, and that's our Bismarck. If you can hit like half mark, 50%, I think the price will naturally come down.
Right.
Without that.
All right, I guess it's safe to say, currency weakness impacts every industry at this point.
Totally.
No industry, is left out.
Absolutely.
So, hopefully, we get that the Naira stronger so we can all survive. Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas Babalola, as a Public Industrial Relations Officer, PBAN, and Mr. Dijat Olani Olokpade, is the Financial Secretary, Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria. It was great having your perspective, and I hope for the very best for the industry. Going forward.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll head straight to the markets, find out what's playing out. That's the moment to stay with us. Welcome back. Well, let's get a sense of what's playing out with the local bourse and global markets that we track. And we have Anete Eda is going to be breaking it down for us, what's playing out in the markets. Anete, good to have you. It's been a while.
Oh, yeah, 3 weeks. 3 weeks I've been out of the scene, but not from channels, just at the back end of Channels TV, doing all the business news that we take on air.
Fantastic. It's great to have you back.
Yeah. Okay, so Ladi, last week, the markets, we had 3 positive sessions last week, but no thanks to losses from Airtel Africa, as well as Wando and some other bellwethers, so the market was in the red. But take a look at your board there, 0.29% intraday in the green, 97,515.15. You can see the fives there, 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Isn't a magic
Quite
number?
Interesting. I'm sure there's some kind of significance to that, maybe, no?
Yeah, for numerology there is. But I guess that number should be a lucky number, not like the number 13, which is an unlucky number. All right, so now let's get cracking with the market numbers. Most of the market that we see on the African continent, they were mostly in the positive territory, except for the Johannesburg Stock Exchange All-Share Index, which was just down a tad, 0.01% at intraday. And of course, still very much in the comfortable at about that 85,000 level. And for the other markets that we track on the African continent, EGX30 In the green, 0.51%, that's about a 0.5% at 31,554.80. And we see lots of bargain hunting all there at intraday for that market, for the Egyptian Stock Exchange and for the Nairobi Stock Exchange, the all-share index. This was for Friday's close. It was up by 0.22% at 115.59. Another 5 that we have there. 5 seems to be like a lucky number in my own dictionary. Okay, so now let's move a little bit still with the domestic market, but this time on the fixed income side of the market, where we'll be reviewing last week's activities. I also will take a look at intraday activity and what to expect within this week. And we have Ayomide Odesonya, who is a fixed income dealer with FSDH Merchant Bank, to give us more details about that. Thank you for joining us, Ayomide.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Okay, all right. So let's make it very, very concise and straight up to our viewers. Give us a little bit of details of what happened throughout the fixed income market last week, where we saw the first full trading week of November kick off. Just give us details of it.
Last week was majorly bearish, and I think that was driven by two significant events. So, on Tuesday, we saw, the OMO auction, and on Wednesday, there was the NTB auction as well. So markets had been expecting the OMO auction, and they oversold by about 1.44 trillion. I think the amount on offer was meant to be about 3 billion, and it closed at 24.28. Of course, this drove markets into a huge deficit. And the next day we had the NTB auction. The DMO oversold those by about 100 billion as well. So, we had 512 billion on offer, but 626 billion was sold at an all-time high of 23%. That's an implied yield of almost 30%. We started to see, yields climb back up in the almost space. And on NTB, because it was a really high level, 23% is the highest we've seen it print this year, I think historically as well. And so, there were some demands that came in that space. But in the bond space, we saw yields go up as well. So, market was largely illiquid. So we just had sellers, particularly at the mid end of the curve. And so yields climbed by about 40 basis points. So last week was largely bearish in the fixed income space.
Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about last week, where we saw on Thursday, which is a day after or 2 days after the U.S. Election came to a close. We saw the Bank of England as well as the U.S. Federal Reserves, both of the world's biggest central banks, cutting their interest rate. Now, what effect is that going to have on the Nigeria's fixed income market, especially when you look at Eurobond and so many other instruments exposed to this?
The Bank of England, I think, have cut about 50 basis points, rates by about 50 basis points this year. And I think the US has cut about 75 basis points this year. And this should be positive for our markets. The more we see rates taper down, it gives us, the opportunity to issue Eurobonds at cheaper funding cost. We're even seeing this across, over African countries. Angola, that hasn't issued Eurobonds in a couple of years, are already in talks about issuing, their Eurobonds. And if we can raise significant volume, say 4 to 5 billion, I think that would help, the CBN tackle the FX problem, which has been their major fight this year. And I think that can also help with the deficits that we're seeing in the budget. So, I believe, in the long term, what we might start to see is, yields taper down if we're able to get cheaper funding costs from Eurobonds and maybe some form of stability on the FX side as well. So, this should be positive for our markets.
Okay, so now my final question with you. Well, intraday first, and then secondly, later this week, how is the intraday market activity? And then this week that we'll be expecting the inflation rate. What are your expectations for the fixed income market?
We can already see that, I expect some form of volatility, but that's majorly because of, the high yields that we're seeing in markets. Markets will be largely bearish. People expect that, the inflation figures will print higher, seeing as, we keep on seeing an increase on PMS, which usually translates to every other thing. Next week, we also have, a bond auction. We have an NCB auction. There's also the MPC meeting, and I think, markets is expecting that they hike by about 25 to 50 basis points. So I expect markets to price that in, and we just see, yields climb up. Bearish sentiment majorly.
Very sentiment. Well, some people wouldn't like to hear that, and some would like to hear that. But of course, we keep our attention, our focus, and our outlook for that. Thank you so much for your time. Ayomide Odesonya, fixed income market dealer with FSDH Merchant Bank.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so from Africa, we move straight away. We fly over to the United States. Stock futures, yes, the US market is actually closed today for the Veterans Day, which comes just once in a while. But stock futures were looking in the green, taking up from that rally that we saw, what you call it, the Trump rally. Also, the markets, particularly the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it had climbed, hit an all-time highs, hitting the 44,000 level for the very first time. But for the stock futures, which is before the opening bell, which is sometime like tomorrow, the market is in the green, 0.34% at 44,293.00, while the S&P 500, 0.27%. Also, the NASDAQ index for the tech heavies, 0.23% in the green for that market. And finally, for the Asian markets, we see last week, China had announced some stimulus package to help it for some of the debts owed by the local governments there, but that did not spur the market. We across the board. Only the Nikkei as well as the China's Shanghai index were in the green, but for the Kospi index and the Hang Seng as well as the India's Nifty 50 down in the red, 0.3%, while Shanghai Composite was marginally up 0.51% at that for the close of Monday's trading session. So, Ladi, that's it, a close for most of the markets, right. And then at intraday, we're still looking out for their closing numbers. All right, looking out for the numbers. Thank you so much for giving us the details. That was a neat to hear there. Break it out, local bourse, intraday trading, and global markets that we track. All right, let's take it on to the UK now. We have Juliana join us from our London studio. Great to have you, Juliana. So we see a 35-year-old insurance company, that's Direct Line, is set to cut about 550 jobs after losing 71,000 motor insurance customers. Quite interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. Not great news, Laddie. Good afternoon, for those who are losing their jobs in the run-up to Christmas. But this has become quite a familiar scene in the United Kingdom. Direct Line may be quite a common brand in the UK because it is a big motor insurance. They've actually got 9,000 staff, and they also have subsidiaries such as Churchill and Privilege under the mother firm. But as you said, they are desperate to cut costs. I believe they said they want to cut about £50 million worth of costs by this time next year. And to do that, they've got to cull about 550 jobs. And as you said, in the last quarter alone, they lost about 71,000 customers. In fact, in the past year, they've lost over 400,000 customers. So that's nearly 500,000 customers. And according to them, it's because they've had to put up their premium, so it's costing a lot more for motorists to insure with them, which is why they seem to have gone away to other insurers. So yeah, as I said, not great. The fact that they've made this announcement just 6 weeks before Christmas. Yes, Christmas is 6 weeks away. We don't know where these job cuts are going to come from, but of course it is a UK insurance company, so expect job losses across the country.
Right, yeah, quite sad. And I think you might need insurance for that dress, what you're wearing right now, because it's really, really nice. But what are you expecting for data this week?
Thank you, Laddie. It's a big week in the UK. Tomorrow we've got unemployment data. Now, unemployment data in the UK has actually been historically and universally low. It's been hovering between sort of 3.5 and 4%. It's expected to tick up tomorrow to about 4.1%, which again is still pretty low if you compare it to what unemployment stands across the world, particularly in Nigeria. I know it's quite high at the moment. And then on Thursday, a really important day for the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves. Of course, she's had a very bruising couple of weeks going across the airwaves in the UK, defending her budget, which saw £44 billion worth of tax hikes. But we have the Mansion House dinner, which is a pretty ceremonious pomp event. But it is going to be strategically important because during that dinner at the Lord Mayor's official residence, the UK Chancellor does start spelling out big fiscal plans, their vision for socio-economic and geopolitical financial collaboration. So it'd be really interesting to see what Rachel Reeves has to say about Donald Trump's re-election on that big stage. So that's happening on Thursday. And then on Friday, we've got another big day because it's GDP for the quarter, year on year, month on month. Now in August, I believe GDP ticked up about 0.2%, but this is after 2 consecutive months of no growth. And so we know that the UK economy is somewhat stagnant at the moment, which is why Rachel Reeves and Sir Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, are doing their utmost best to try and invest, build, and then there should be growth. That is the prayer. Let's hope it is answered. And so, yeah, pretty busy week in the UK this week.
All right, definitely a busy one. But how are the markets looking?
The market's in tip-top shape at intraday. The all shares up by 0.74%. FTSE 100 blue chip is up by 0.75%, and the FTSE 250, the domestic market, up to Laddie by 0.91%. In the currencies market, the British pound is currently trading down against the US dollar by 0.11%. Still lots of momentum stateside on Trump's historic election win. Also, the pound is trading up against the euro by 0.17% and up against the Japanese yen by 0.37%, Laddie.
All right, let's see if this week, that's the week after the elections, plays out like the previous week. Thank you so much, Juliana, for the details. All right, now let's get a check on what's playing out in Europe now. See, it's been a few days of chaos and change for the world, but especially for Germany. Less than a week after the U.S. re-elected Donald Trump to the White House and the coalition government in Berlin that's fall apart. We see Germany is looking for direction and how to find its place in the world. Well, Lars Holter, as with DW, joins us now. Great to have you, Lars. So let's look at the Germany and the U.S. For a minute. What can you tell us?
Thanks for having me, Ladi. Yes, it's interesting to start with Germany and the U.S., both in the midst of a major change here in the U.S. Obviously, we will have Donald Trump back in the White House, and we know from his first term, as well as watching him throughout the campaign, that he will not be interested in the same kind of partnership with Germany and with Europe in general that we have had for decades, a partnership that worked both on a political but also on an economic level. And then we have the question, too, who will speak for Germany in future, because it looks like we'll be having snap elections here too. Over the weekend, Friedrich Merz came out with a bit of a push. Now, he's the leader of the Christian Democrats, and with that party leading in current polls, he might very well be the next chancellor. He says he knows how to deal with the US under Donald Trump and how to establish a symbiotic relationship. He says, for example, that he would commit to buy fighter jets from the US at a time when obviously the US pushes Germany to spend more on defense anyway. But at the same time, he says he wants to push for those jets to get maintenance done in Germany with the necessary plants built and jobs created here. Sounds like a plan, and yet we'll have to see what happens over the next couple of weeks.
All right, but international issues are also being discussed at a climate meeting in Baku. What are you hearing about that?
Yeah, global politics is going on despite the trouble you might experience in certain countries. What I find especially interesting looking at COP29 is a German-led push for reorganizing how the fight against climate change is supposed to be funded. Germany will be at the meeting with 4 ministers, and they're making the case that certain wealthy countries like China, Saudi Arabia, and other Gulf nations are asked to pay up too, something that is not currently happening. Those countries I mentioned are still seen by the UN as developing nations and actually receive funds to help them finance climate measures, which sounds bizarre considering that they are among the economically most powerful countries in the world as it is, and they're also behind some of the most serious problems leading to climate change. It will be interesting to see how much weight Germany still has in those discussions this week, given that the government is working from a lame duck position.
COP29 moving on ahead, but how are investors looking in today's markets?
Given the turbulences we are in at the moment, I guess it's a good thing we're at least getting some company data that is some clear numbers about the past quarter that investors can at least get a clear picture from. Steel giant Salzgitter, auto supplier Continental, and Hannover Re are among the big ones reporting today. Then it's also definitely be interesting to keep an eye on the Bitcoin. It has just set a new all-time high at $80,000. Obviously, the cryptocurrency being the big winner of Donald Trump's election win. Never mind that Trump used to hate Bitcoin. He has now jumped on the train and is even billing himself the crypto president. So there are currently heated discussions as to whether getting into Bitcoin is a good idea at this record high price, if there's more to come, or whether that train has left the station.
We'll find out. Thank you so much, Lars.
Thank you, Ladi.
All right, now let's get a check on other stories now. We see Egypt's annual headline inflation continues its upward trend for the third consecutive month, rising to 26.3% in October compared to 26% in September. The monthly headline inflation, we see that decreased by 1.5%, down from 2.3% in September, according to the Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics, CAPMAS. They attributed the increase in the annual headline inflation mainly to the hike in prices of electricity, gas, and fuel materials. We also see meat and poultry at about 3.3%, fish and seafood about 2.1%, home furnishings about 1.6%, dairy products, cheese and eggs at about 2%, and textiles 1.4%. So definitely we'll see how this would impact most of the imports and exports coming out of Egypt. Let's look at our stories now. Still from Egypt, we'll see Egypt-Malaysia trade that reached $574 million in the first 9 months of 2024, slightly down from $626 million in the same period of 2023. According to the Central Agency for Mobilization and Statistics, that's CAPMAS again, Egypt's exports to Malaysia totaled $68 million in the first 9 months of 2024, down from $76 million in the same period. The main exports were agricultural products and mineral resources like ground natural calcium phosphate. Egyptian imports from Malaysia totaled $506 million in the first 9 months of 2024, from $550 million in the same period in 2023. Key exports to Egypt, that included vegetable and animal fats and oils, electrical machinery and equipment, and rubber. The Zimbabwean government has reaffirmed its commitment to advancing renewable energy solutions, aiming to achieve 1,100 megawatts from renewable energy sources by 2025 and 2,100 megawatts by 2030. These targets set within the nation's renewable energy policy are intended to address Zimbabwe's long-standing electricity shortages and reduce dependency on traditional hydroelectric power, which has been impacted by erratic rainfall and climate change. In support of the transition, the government is encouraging independent power producers through government implementation agreements that facilitate the setup of solar plants with capacities ranging from 5 kilowatts for household use, 200 kilowatts for industrial applications. So far, over several institutional and domestic biogas facilities have been installed, further promoting clean, renewable energy in the country. And Uganda has exported about 1.95 million megawatts per hour of electricity in the last 5 years, returning a 43% increase on earnings from about $21 million in June 2020 to $48.8 million. That's about 175 billion shillings. Bank of Uganda, in the case of Uganda, had in the period under review exported 1.95 million megawatts per hour of electricity, returning a 43% in earnings from $21 million in June. All righty then, let's get a check on what's playing out. We did hear from Lars. He did talk about a new high for Bitcoin. And if you look at that, you see it's mostly Bitcoin, with the green on the screen. Pockets of red for Ethereum, BNB, and most of other big altcoins on the top 100 when you're looking at coin market cap. But we see the king of the meme coins, Doge, that's looking really, really green at this point. Let's get a check on the sentiment in the market. Let's see how traders are feeling. We've talked about the fear greed index. We'll get a check on that. But for the top cryptocurrencies we track, we see Bitcoin holding up 2.72%, Ethereum pulled back 0.92%, profit taking on Ethereum, BNB down 2.29%. We've had a monster run also from BNB. That's the token for the Binance exchange. XRP 58 cents, still holding tight to that 50 cent level, up 0.77%. And now, talking about how investors are feeling in the crypto market, they are extremely greedy right there in the market. We know how most investors like to use the fear greed index, trying to find out how to exit or where to enter the market. Then for the headlines, we see FTX, that's the embattled crypto exchange. I'm looking at suing Binance ex-CEO. Doge surpasses $42 billion market cap. That's the king of the meme coins. Doing really well with a market cap of $42 billion. Then we see for liquidations, that's for those that are trying to short Bitcoin in this market. They got liquidated, losing about $90 billion. Yeah, that's what happens when you're playing the long or the short game. You make a bet that Bitcoin is going to go higher. You either make money or you lose money at this point. But we're seeing the shorts there losing $90 billion. All right, let's bring in Rume Ofi now, financial market analyst. Hello, Rume. Hello, Rume. Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon, Rume. Great to have you. So I'm sure you're also feeling the euphoria. I'm sure you've seen this before in many cycles in this market. When Bitcoin gets to a new high, then you start getting calls from your mom and dad. Can I buy Bitcoin?
Yes, I think in this case, I would say is the Trump trade. A couple of persons got it right. Because Trump is the pro-crypto president of the United States. And it's a what changes happen to in the ecosystem in the future. And I also think that it's something that is going to be here for a while, because all of the guys in Congress, a couple of them, the Congress, new congressmen are elect, a couple of them are pro-crypto, and it's going to make a lot of sense for the entire industry right now. And there's also something I think I love is the fact that the ETFs are actually having some liquidity pumping in, which also gives a nod to the fact that we are just getting started in no time. But although the odds are not, because funds have to flow from the king Bitcoin to odds at the time. They have seen some pullback and they are betting on the market and losing a whole lot of money. That's what happens in a probability market. Some persons are actually seeing what some others are not seeing. Then if it happens that way, people lose money in the process.
Right. Definitely, you don't want to getting, when the market is really bullish, at this point. But, talk to me about Trump. Now, everyone seems to believes that he's pro-crypto at this time. But on the other side, we know Trump is America first. And he's a big bull, when it comes for the US dollar. And when you look at Bitcoin and the US dollar, we know cryptocurrencies have this decentralized nature that doesn't allow control. So how do you think Trump is going to manage, the America First agenda and having a strong US dollar and still, looking out for a strong crypto industry? Okay, I guess Rumor is frozen there. Yeah, internet.
All right. If I get
all right, fine. I can hear you now. I lost you for a moment there.
Yes, I think what I see in this whole thing is the fact that Trump is pro crypto, and if you look at it critically, one thing that stands out right now is the fact that stable coins that are backed by the US dollar are actually leading the way on-chain. About 50% of on-chain transactions are stable coins, and these stable coins are pegged to the dollar. And also, for people talking about de-dollarization, I think.
All right,
the dollar is getting even more popular every day, and with the Trump winning, so you can.
All right, so it looks like the network is quite erratic there, and it's not allowing Rume to complete his thoughts. But definitely, it's all about the Trump trade, at this point. But Rume, I don't know if you can hear me now.
I can hear you loud and clear, Laddie. I can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. So, looking at this week, the fresh week, do you see more tailwinds for Bitcoin, this week when it comes to price?
Yeah, so there's something that people don't know about that I'm going to talk about now. When the market is moving this way upwards, and a whole lot of persons are trying to bet against it to go down, the market goes up more. So if the market is going up more, and if a good amount of persons are betting for it to go down, then it goes up more. Then if everyone is betting that it is going to go up even more, a large numbers of persons are going really deep on it, then we're going to see some levels of pullback and shake off to remove the weak hands. That is what has happened over and over and over again, and it has the possibility of coming back.
All right, let's look at, it's all about blockchain technology. Some kind of put blockchain aside, when you have a bullish market like what we're seeing right now. But, talk to me, have you seen any new trends, when it comes to, that blockchain technology, especially in Nigeria?
I didn't get the part, but I only heard about blockchain when it comes to
blockchain technology. When they're talking about regulation and the trends, in the industry, what are you seeing so far?
Yeah, so this just gives a nod to some of the materials that we just came up with. The blockchain compliance policy and regulation material that is the first in Africa that I also co-authored. It comes in at the time where a couple of countries in Africa don't know the way to follow, and it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So, for example, in Nigeria, we're still putting a whole lot in work involved. The SEC is doing a couple of, and I also think the National Assembly should be able to come up with something, be able to make all of this go on. It is because of the proper regulations not in place or people not getting clarity. That is why someone like Tiger actually got himself in trouble. If it is aware of the regulatory guidelines in Nigeria, I don't think he would be able to. The platform Binance and Mr. Tiger himself, we make such mistakes. So it also goes to show that platforms that are coming in the future need to study or understand that each jurisdiction has policy, regulations, and which you need to be compliant with. Else, you're going to be having serious issues coming into Africa, right, most especially the giant like Nigeria. So we're able to put something in place to say, okay, this is something that you can also look at.
All right, roommate, definitely. You need to know the rules, clear rules.
That makes some sense
so that,
on the...
Right, so that everybody can play by the rules. Thank you so much, Rume Ofi. The network definitely impacted our conversation. But thank you so much, Rume Ofi, for bringing us up to speed. So it's a new high for Bitcoin at this time. Will this continue? That is the question. We'll definitely keep watching. But that's the show today, and that's how most markets we track are looking locally and globally. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Lade Williams from me and the team right here at Channels HQ. It's bye for now.